Burke Hare took her body to Dr. Knox, and Dr. Knox thought that she was so beautiful that he preserved her body in whiskey. And then what he proceeded to do was I do my best to fact check everything I share, but please don't take any action based on the information here, and definitely don't quote me in your dissertation. Also, some viewer discretion is advised. Some stories may include graphic or potentially triggering content, so please take care when listening. And if I laugh at any point, just know it's never at the history or the people involved. Sometimes I just get a little awkward, or the drama is too wild not to react. Hi everyone, and welcome back to History in High Heels. It's autumn time now, happy October, and I'm going to be doing a Halloween series here, so I'm going to be sharing some spooky stories for you. So there'll be 4 coming up today, first one, so I want you to get cozy. I've got my heels on still, don't you worry about that. I do have my socks on as well though, because I want it to be cozy today, but like classy. We do have a different vibe today. I hope you like it. I just wanted to get really cozy. The homey vibe. We have a candle. Thank you. It's a pumpkin spice. Of course it is. I've got my pumpkin blanket here, my autumnal blanket. We've got our beverage of choice in the zebra mug. Okay. Oh, nearly set my jumper on fire. October 2025. What are we doing? What's everyone's plans? What is everyone's Halloween situation? What are you wearing for Halloween? Who are you going as? What costume? Okay. As for what I'm doing today, I couldn't have a Halloween special and not mention the Burke Hare case. Okay? It's based in Scotland. I'm Scottish. It's Halloween. You'll see what happens. Let me welcome you to 1900s Edinburgh. Dirty, smelly, dangerous, narrow streets, towering tenements even, dirty rats, okay, unclean, dirty, I'm going to say it again. And so rats were treating it like a 5-star resort, essentially. That's the level that we're talking about. It was overcrowded, it was crumbling, and it was really smelly. It was really smelly. So if you're living on the top floor of the tenements, you're absolutely sweet. Lucky you, because you're only mildly choking on the stench. And if you're living on the bottom, then you're living in the rat kingdom. So everyone is stacked like sardines, and strangers are sharing beds, and landlords can kick you out in a jiffy. This was the old town, Edinburgh. But in the new town of Edinburgh, that is the place that you want to be, okay? Because that's where all the doctors and the lawyers and things like that, that's where they live. Because over there, it's like a Georgian elegance. It's wide, it's clean, and basically Edinburgh's elite are living there. And the city is essentially split down the middle by class, status, and stench. That smell could part the Red Sea. So, let's enter our characters of today. Both named William, so we will call them Burke and Hare. They were Irish immigrants, and they were chasing opportunity like thousands of others at the time, and therefore Hare owned a lodging house, and it was in Tanner's Close in Edinburgh, if you know where that is. And Burke? Well, he left his wife and kids when he moved over to Scotland, so that must have been really sad for him, but don't worry, he found a new woman straight away. Says a lot about him. But so he found a new woman, started living with her, Helen McDougall. Okay, So these two men, they met, and I believe it was because Burke ended up staying at Hare's lodging house just by chance, and they were similar in age, similar backgrounds, both Irish, and they got on really well, so they strung up a friendship. So as for their status, they weren't the poorest, but they also weren't the richest. Like, they were one step above poor. So they were still scraping. So they were still in poverty. And it was like just high enough to get on the social ladder to exploit those beneath them. And to add Edinburgh's gritty old town, perfect hunting ground for them. So let's talk about anatomy. Hello, biology. So in Edinburgh, there was a hotspot for medical education. Surgeons and students and scholars. I always say scholars. Scholars. Everybody wanted a hands-on experience when it came to medical things, medical activities. And dissection was the rage at the time. That was the big thing that people wanted to do. That's when they wanted the scalpel in their hands, and the students wanted to do it for themselves. They wanted to explore and dissect bodies. And this is where Dr. Robert Knox enters the group chat. So, he was a big shot. People really liked him. He was an anatomist at one of the leading schools in Europe, which was Edinburgh's medical school. And his lectures were so popular that they would have to be ticketed. If you're watching this in Scotland, by the way, it was at 10's Surgeons Square, which was the place that he was doing it at. I've actually been there. So yeah, his lectures, really popular, sold out, if you will. But there was one problem. There was not enough cadavers. What is a cadaver? I hear you ask. It's just a dead human body. It's just the medical term for it. So there wasn't enough cadavers. What were they using at this point, though? They were using executed criminals. That was the legal thing that they were allowed to do. However, people were being bribed. Okay, you had undertakers that were being bribed. You had hospital staff that were being bribed, because the price for a body was up there. It was pretty high. Okay, it was about £7 to £8, which I wasn't sure about about what that cost these days. And I looked it up, and it was months and months of wages. Okay. It was months and months of wages for them. And if you were poor, so executed criminals were the legal source, but the supply was tiny and the demand was absolutely massive. So naturally, the whole city leaned into the black market, which was the body snatching, bribing undertakers, stealing corpses from fresh graves. That was called grave robbing. And I watched this documentary where it had metal, almost like this metal cage over the grave. And I can't really describe it, but if the ground is here, and then there's like a metal cage like a little bit above, maybe like shin height, and that was to protect the grave from grave robbers. So there's a little bit of information for you. Something else that they would do to protect graves from grave robbers is they would have like lookouts. So people would be standing, making sure that nobody was, doing anything they shouldn't be doing in the cemetery. I think that would be the creepiest job, though. Like, imagine having to stand in a cemetery in the black of night and making sure that people do not steal graves. No. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing that. Not doing that. But yeah, for Burke and Hare, it wasn't really the horror. It was more opportunity. Although, I don't know if they knew that yet. So basically how this began was in the lodging house, in Hare's lodging house, there was a little old man, and his name was Old Donald. Aww. And Old Donald, given the name, was really old. And he wasn't very well. And he died in the lodging house, in Hare's lodging house. He died. It's really sad. And he died of natural causes. But he also died owing Hare some money. So what the two decided to do, Burke and Hare, was take Old Donald's body and take it to Robert Knox. And therefore they could get a little bit of money and it would cover what Old Donald owed them. Robert Knox gave them £10. And I don't know if that was each. No, it would have been £10 for the one body, I assume. And that, to them, in that time, is months and months and months of cash. Okay? Months of cash in one go. Like, it is ridiculous. So it was a lot to them. And remember, they're one step above the poorest people that they have. So this was a lot for them. It was easy. There was no questions asked. Robert Knox did not ask any questions, like allegedly. This lit a light bulb in their minds. It lit something darker. Lighting something darker. This original little light bulb moment led to something very, very dark. Had to rearrange. Ooh, let's get some of this in, shall we? Let's get into the very first victim. I know it's bad. So after Old Donald, they now know that they can get money for dead bodies. So there was this man who we know as Joseph the Miller. Now, Joseph was ill. He was really ill, actually. He was dying, it was really bad. And I guess Burke and Hare just decided to speed things up for him. So they decided that they would pile Joseph with whiskey, and then their method was for Hare to go and hold the victim's torso down and basically use his body, I guess, to hold the victim down, and then Burke would come along with a pillow and smother them in the face. So, yeah, it was really bad. And Burke and Hare thought it was a great tactic because there were no marks, there was no blood, there was no signs of a struggle. They thought it was foolproof plan to get themselves some money. Poor Joseph was murdered quietly in his bed, and unfortunately he became Burke and Hare's very first victim. Yeah, they found the perfect method of suffocation. It didn't leave any trace at all. It was clean, silent, undetectable, and so infamous that they even gave it earned a nickname. Burking. I don't know how I feel about that. Burking. If you laughed, you're going to hell. Poor Joseph. His body was taken to Dr. Knox, and cha-ching, they got money for his body. It was truly awful. So they thought that they were onto something. Old Donald had gone, unfortunately, and they just happened to give his body to Dr. Knox. And then Joseph, they helped him on his way. Why would they wait for a payday when they can just schedule it? So anyway, they began targeting Edinburgh's most vulnerable people, the poor, the elderly, the forgotten. Basically, they picked their victims for who they thought society wouldn't miss. So if you think about it, you're in the pub. This is quite sad. You're in the pub and there's an old person in the corner, male or female, and they're just sitting by themselves having a drink. And they're always there. Every night they're there. They don't really speak to their family, maybe. Their only friends are really in the pub. That would be a perfect victim for them. It's really sad. They would just take advantage of that. So anyway, there was a lady called Abigail Simpson, and she was a salt seller. And she was just trying to boost her pension. My gal was just trying to make some extra dough. This diva was selling salt. Come on. But anyway, she was invited for a drink with them, and Abigail never came back. Not all the victims are, which is really awful. Some of the victims aren't known. Some of the victims, they just can't remember the details about them. So I would like to honour them. There's not that much information about them though. And things like Abigail Simpson, there's really not that much to go on because they didn't care to take note. They just wanted to kill the people and then sell their bodies. That's what they came for. They didn't care about the person that they were killing. So there you go. So there was a man selling matches and timber, and he was staying at Hare's lodging house and burked. Awful. Then Mary Patterson, she was an alleged sex worker, and so it's a shame because that label was likely to justify her disappearance. And it's really sad because she just left the Magdalene, I might be saying that wrong, the Magdalene Asylum, and that was a reform institution. So it was to rehabilitate women. So she went to that hoping to get like a brighter future, and instead she banged into Burke Hare on a night out. She was originally on a night out with Janet Brown, her friend, and yeah, she ended up not coming back from that. And Janet was searching for her for ages on the streets. Like ages. She was, imagine if you lost your friend on a night out. You'd be like, where is she? So yeah, it was really sad. Janet was looking for her friend and she couldn't find her anywhere. Meanwhile, she had been burked and they took her body. So this bit was just absolutely disgusting and vile. Like, I cannot, like, this is why I made the podcast, to shine light on stories like this. What they did to her body, Burke Hare took her body to Dr. Knox. And Dr. Knox thought that she was so beautiful that he preserved her body in whiskey. And then what he proceeded to do was invite people round, like local artists, to sketch her body. Her dead body. So there was about 16 victims that they know of. There might have been more, but they're not sure. I think there was 16 that they eventually just said, yeah, that happened. But anyway, so Burke Hare are committing the perfect crime. They're getting away with it and nothing's being noticed. So, they're just doing their thing, being seamless. They're magically getting more money. Where's it coming from? Don't know, because Robert Knox isn't going to ask any questions. And then, they murder and there comes a turning point because their perfect little system starts to crumble. Thank the Lord. So it all starts because of James Wilson. James. His name was actually Daft Jamie, and I'm not going to call him that because I think that's disrespectful because he is a victim. So I'm just going to call him Jamie. He was barefoot. He was harmless. He was very popular in the community, and he had learning difficulties as well. So Hare, bastard, lured him into the lodging house. And the duo gave him whiskey, did their usual little ritual where they give him whiskey. But Jamie fought back. Yes, Jamie. But they still overpowered him. And he got burked and they sold his body. There was a problem. Everybody, like I said, Jamie was popular with the locals. Everyone knew him. So let me just ask you something. If you knew somebody and they ended up and, they seem perfectly fine, you saw them a few days ago, and then all of a sudden you go to a lecture and you see them on the dissecting table, you're going to think something's up, okay? And that's exactly what happened. People went to Dr. Knox's lectures and they noticed Jamie's body on the table. We're not thinking, boys, were we? Don't think that we were thinking about that properly. So, Dr. Knox in a panic, decided to dissect the body immediately. And what does he do? What does he do? He cuts off the head and the feet and removes them to try and avoid his identity being revealed. Very classy move from Dr. Knox there. So, that was a pretty close call. I think we can all agree that was a pretty close call. But did the boys stop there? And I'm going to call them boys, okay? Because they are. They're acting like immature, stupid little boys. And would you think that they got scared by that? Because they didn't. They did not get scared by that. It was a very close call, but it did not put them off. It didn't put them off at all. They were like, phew. That was a close one. What are you doing tomorrow? Do you want to do it again? Yeah, I do. Okay. And they murder Margaret Docherty. And she was Irish, vulnerable. She was actually looking for her son. And they killed her and hid her body under straw. And was planning to move it later. They were planning to move. They were busy. They were like, I've just killed this body, and now I really can't be bothered moving it. Like, will we just go out for dinner and then we can move it after? Yeah. So they had planned to move her. But the thing is that how it worked was Margaret was killed in the lodging house. So how it came about, on the night that Margaret was killed, the family that were in that room in the lodging house were called the Greys. And the Greys were asked to leave for a night because Hare had a family member coming round, or Burke had a family member. They needed the room. Could you just boost out for like one night? They're just staying one night, super quick, like you can come back tomorrow. So the Greys leave, and that's when Margaret Docherty comes round and she gets murdered, she gets burked, and then body in the straw, hidden away in the room. She stayed in the lodging house, okay, and then the Greys the next day moved back in. Although then they find the body. That was a plot twist. I don't know if you saw that was coming, but it was quite a silly mistake from Hare. I meant Burke Hare. Anyway, I mean, that's traumatizing for the Greys. They literally just found a corpse. So Burke Hare, they try give her some money, give her some hush money, like shush, please don't tell anyone, like, you know, like that's gonna ruin their whole plan. That's gonna ruin everything. And you know what they did? The first bit of humanity in this story, they said no. They were poor and impoverished, and they could have really used that money, but they said no. I guess their morals just took over, and they are great people, and they are the heroes of our story today. Thank you, Greys. Then came the trial, and this was a media circus. And here comes the plot twist, where if you've not heard the story, you are gonna gag, okay? Because nobody saw this coming. So arrest warrants for the boys were issued on November the 3rd, 1828. December, Christmas Eve rolls around. Ooh, Christmas Eve, 24th of December, 1828. This is a very quick trial. Okay? So the Burke Hare case begins, and the newspapers and gossip columns explode, okay? Public horror. It's off the charts. This is the thing. It's only Burke and Helen McDougall on the stand. Remember Helen McDougall? She's the one that, you know, Burke left his wife and family in Ireland and then got with this lady and they were living together. Yeah, her. She was like aware of all the crimes and she didn't say anything. So on the stand for you, my darling. So, yeah, wait. Burke and Helen McDougall. We're missing someone. I think we're missing someone. Oh, yes, it's Hare. Where is he? Where is he? Hare, our very charming villain, had cut a deal. King's evidence. He confessed to 16 murders and got immunity. No prison, no execution, no prison times like that. Just freedom. Burke, he wasn't so lucky. He was completely thrown under the bus by Hare. Completely. Hare told them everything for his immunity. He was basically like, he did it. I was present, but he did it. So Burke gave multiple messy confessions. And at one point, with a priest present, he admitted, and I quote,
"Hare did not sit by while I did it. He was on the body, assisting me with all his might."
End quote. Also, like, I feel like we're missing somebody else in this story. Dr. Knox. Yes, never charged. Now, don't get confused, okay? Yes, he didn't actually do any murders, but he didn't ask any questions. He was getting an obscene supply of bodies out of thin air and just didn't tell anyone and just asked no questions. That's funky, okay? He knew what they were doing, I think, in my opinion. He knew what they were doing. And also, like, he literally had a dead body in his house and invited people to come around and paint it. Like, that is enough. That's enough for a criminal charge. It's disgusting. And he wasn't even in the courtroom, by the way. Dr. Knox, completely absent. So nothing says Christmas Eve like a murder trial and a King's Evidence plot twist. Edinburgh was living for the drama. So the verdict came on Christmas morning. It was a Christmas miracle because Burke was guilty. Yay, justice. I don't really feel like it's justice though, but okay, we'll see where it goes. McDougall was not proven guilty, and the sentence? Hanging. So he was due to be executed. But one thing of this case that I just... After he was executed, it was ordered that his body was going to be live for like a public dissection. So essentially, he was going to have to do what his dead body was going to be put through what he had put through all of his other victims, which is such a dark and twisted plot, twist. Like, it's just such a dark twist to the story that he got exactly what he was doing to other people. So, yeah, on January the 28th, 1829, Burke was executed in front of 20,000 people. And when I was watching my documentary, I saw that there was a few people that were trying to guard his body so that people didn't rip it down, rip it to shreds and things like that. After it was just hanging there, because the public were absolutely outraged, completely outraged, don't have words. These guys were murderers, killing people. And his body, after he was executed, had to be smuggled through the city to go to Edinburgh's university, medical school, so that it wasn't tore to shreds before it got there for the dissection. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, then what happened? Well, he was publicly dissected. And it's really dark and sick and twisted because his skeleton is hanging in a museum in Edinburgh. I think it's the Atomical Museum, but I'm not quite sure, but it's one of the ones in Edinburgh. And his death mask is still preserved. I've seen it. I went to the museum on Surgeons Square. Was it Surgeons Square? Surgeons Hall? Surgeons Hall. I went there and I saw his death mask. And seeing things like that, it's really brings the past to life when it's not just a story, it really happened. And then somebody else made a pocketbook, a notepad, and the cover is out of his skin. And you can see that today. You can see it at Surgeons Hall today. Just don't murder people. And you won't have that. I'm kind of glad that happened to him, though, because he was a sick guy. But also, like, where was Hare in all this? Let's zoom out, okay? Because this wasn't just about killers. It was about poverty, power, status, and a medical system that turned a blind eye in the name of science. They should have asked the questions. The public was outraged, and not just at Burke Hare, but by Dr. Knox as well, and the entire elite establishment. And people protested, okay? They protested outside of his home, and they built this effigy of him, which is like a big puppet, like a model of him, and destroyed it. And then they went to his house and they like smashed his windows and stomped on his lawn and made like a huge mess trying to get Knox. So then I think they were like at his house trying to get him to come out, but Knox wasn't there. He'd actually already been warned by police that people were coming, and he scooted his boot out of there. He was not there. He was legally cleared, but socially he was absolutely ruined. And he left Edinburgh in 1842. So was it worth it, Robert? Was it worth it? Was it really, really worth it? Anyway, meanwhile, Burke's skeleton still gets a display case. And here, he was last seen in Carlisle, and he was given money and a new name, and then he vanished. Why are we giving criminals money? I think I did also see somewhere, that he did, like, there was another case where they tried to appeal the King's Evidence thing where he would not get immunity, but it got rejected. Like, they stuck to what they told him. They said, if you give us this advice, we will let you go free. And that is the way that it was. He did literally just walk free for committing murders. Okay, this scandal reached British Parliament, and in 1832 the Anatomy Act was passed, and this basically allowed medical schools to legally use unclaimed bodies, and these could have come from hospitals or prisons or workhouses. So there was no more need for grave robbing or murder. It's grim, it's twisted, and it's utterly fascinating. Thank you for joining us today in the shadows of Edinburgh's spookiest, darkest history. If you've enjoyed this twisted tale, please give me a 5-star review, subscribe, rate it. Next week we will be talking about a queen who you might have seen in your bathroom or in the toilet. Oh, I'm really trying to make this mysterious. And if you don't give me 5 stars, I'll send Burke Hare to your doorstep. I'm just kidding. I'm just okay. Probably. See ya.